pressed it and everything.
Yay, it says we're streaming. Here we go. All right. We're live.
It looks like it. This is awesome. Our very first time trying this. Get myself situated now that we're going here. Hello, everyone. My name is Carly Wharton, and the other co-host of this event is Valerie Lewis. And we do these Buildabiz events as part of Everyday Hustle, which is a meetup group that we started. So Everyday Hustle is for energetic entrepreneurs, creators, artists, anybody who is translating their soul and their energy and putting their hearts into their work on a daily basis. Like, those are our people. That's who we are. That's who our people are. So yes, we're always getting to meet other fun entrepreneurs who are doing what they love and what they're passionate about. And Buildabiz as a series covers the who, what, when, where, why, how of business. So all the pieces that it takes to not only start a business, but then maintain it and build it and grow it and expand it and take that business long-term into the future if that's what you want to do. So a lot of what our events provide is networking opportunities. You get to meet a lot of other different entrepreneurs who are doing cool things. There's always like advice sharing back and forth, which is so cool, where we share our specialties, which is awesome for the group. Buildabiz series have been particularly fun because we dive each time into one specific topic. So for example, today's topic is who inspires you? And as I was reflecting leading up to this, I very much broke that down into two parts. The first part I want to talk about is, why is it important to be inspired? You know, I don't want to skip over that part of it. And then the second part is, I had a whole list of people that came to mind almost instantly who were like, these are the people that inspire me. And in what ways do each of them inspire me in their own unique subject? So I want to share kind of all of that, starting with, you know, what is the point behind being inspired? And I think for me, and this very much comes out of a conversation I was having with my personal coach a couple days ago, where basically our belief in ourselves to succeed is our most powerful asset that we will ever have. So keeping up that belief in ourselves day after day after day, after shitty day, after good day, after hard day, after like somebody didn't resonate with my, intuition day, it's up to us to hold strong. As entrepreneurs, there's no boss, there's nobody above you who can like receive you after a hard meeting and like give you a pep talk. I've only ever had like maybe one boss like that, but even so, they're out there. And when you don't have a boss, when it's just you, like just you and your work, it's up to ourselves to keep ourselves motivated and inspired, even better than motivated, and in love with our work. So when I look to the people that are on my list of who inspires me, that's what I see. I see them really enjoying what they're doing, is kind of something that they all have in common. The other piece of it is that, especially when we're entrepreneurs or artists of any kind, creating anything, our souls are all unique. So figuring out like who is your unique soul is something that, I think it takes our whole lives basically to kind of really get a hold on that. But other people who inspire us can help us to figure out little pieces of what that picture really looks like of who we are. The people that we resonate with and that they inspire us, a lot of times, like they're demonstrating like, yeah, that's the way that I want to live. That's how I want to create my life to be. I appreciate what they're doing, and I know that the universe would give me anything that I want. So I want to create that. So all of these different people, kind of like one tiny little piece at a time, like through resonating with people who inspire me, I understand myself on a deeper level. And really, I think it says a lot about a person if you, sit down and who are the first 15 or so people that you can think of who inspire you. a lot of your identity is likely wrapped up in that list. So as I go through each of these people, I want to share just like super high level why each of them has touched my life. The very first one that came to mind, anytime, this talk of inspiration comes up, Renee Brown is like an instant first person to land in my mind. I absolutely love her work. And from her, I learned how to learn vulnerability, how to like open myself up emotionally, and just in general, kind of emotional intelligence is basically what she teaches. And so through studying her material, that's very much what I felt like I learned. Elizabeth Gilbert is a writer. She wrote Eat, Pray, Love, and lots of other successful books. And she talks about creativity and the creative process and like how frustrating it can be, how rewarding it can be. And so just kind of how to relate to the highs and the lows of it. John Oliver is technically a comedian, I think he would classify himself as. He's also technically a newscaster. He has a show on HBO. And he is so good at telling the multifaceted truth, what I would call like a really low bias in the truth, like presenting all sides. And I really appreciate that because he gives favor to that there is obviously more than one point of view on every single subject. And he's really good at talking about that. Karen and Georgia, they host a podcast called My Favorite Murder. And oh my goodness, their authenticity, the way they show up and they own who they are and their journey and everything they've been through and their mental health, especially for me, has been really powerful to hear them just like talk about it openly, like it's normal. I'm like, oh my gosh, I want that. I want some of that. So yeah, they've been very inspirational. Also, just kind of like set me up. I feel like they taught me to podcast because the way they show up and just kind of like fly by the seat of their pants and go with it. And if somebody calls them out on making a mistake, they basically host corrections corner every time to like fix all the mistakes they made last time. Like, that's totally my style. I love that. You just like, don't worry about it. You just fix it if you get something wrong. Anna is a friend of mine who she's like 20, and the way she's able to pull her authentic self out of herself on her YouTube channel is truly inspirational. Like seeing her in person and watching her on her YouTube channel, it's inspirational. It's the only word for it. My parents are both entrepreneurs, and for my whole life, I feel like they really gave me a model of how I wanted my life to be. I wanted to be my own boss. I wanted to decide like what my schedule looked like. I loved the freedom that they were able to show me there. Kia Z, I think is how you say her name. Maybe Val knows how to say her name. She's a full-time successful artist, like making paintings and coasters, and she supports herself doing this and is very successful at it. And anytime you see successful artists, like that's always very cool. Abraham Hicks, Esther and Jerry, who brought to life Abraham Hicks, they taught me energy and again a lot about emotional intelligence. Stephen Bartlett he hosts a podcast called The Diary of a CEO, and he also started a social media company called, I don't remember, but he's like, I think still in his 20s and doing all of this, and his company just like took off super fast. And so he's doing this podcast of Diary of a CEO and talking about like what it's like to manage employees across multiple continents and, like the travel that he does and maintaining a personal life. And he's, yeah, again, just brings his authentic self. I don't know what her name is, but her page is called The Bird's Papaya. And she's a lady who, she lost a lot of weight and now she does a lot of like naked pictures of herself, very tasteful naked pictures where she's not showing any of her private parts or anything, but she is showing stretch marks and lumps and rolls. And she's basically owning and like creating a space to talk about body image issues. Which you don't have to be heavy to have body image issues. So yeah, she's super inspirational. She just had a baby, which like set her back on her journey like 70 pounds. And so she's very much going through a lot, but she's very cool to follow. The Bird's Papaya is her Facebook page. And she's a writer too. She's just very deep and very cool and feeling very comfortable in her skin, which is new to her and new to me. So yeah, I feel like very inspirational to see how she does that and put herself out there. And the last one I'll say is Dolores Cannon. Her entire body of work on time, specifically, she does lots of different types of things, but like basically, if you believe her 3 Nostradamus books, Conversations with Nostradamus, she basically traveled her consciousness through time backwards, like 400, 500 years, or Nostradamus traveled his consciousness forwards, or they both left time and went to a non-time dimension where they were able to communicate for 3 books worth of material. So basically proving that time doesn't even exist, Dolores Cannon. If you don't know who she is, like she's a fascinating character too, because she's just not your typical, like what you would think of for like a teacher of the material that she teaches. She doesn't look like what she is, which I also am inspired by. So she was the second to last, because the very last one that I want to say, and I think this, I'm passionate about this one being on everyone's list. I'm inspired by myself. I'm inspired by the progress that I've made. Like if I look at my life today compared to 5 years ago, I am so much better on so many fronts. My life is so much more aligned with my soul than it's ever been. And I move a little bit more in that direction every day. And I show up to do that work every day because I love it. So, like, that's inspiring to me. It's inspiring to me that I'm able to make progress over time. And I think that's important for entrepreneurs, again, because you don't have a boss to tell you at the end of the day, you did a good job. And if you're somebody that likes to hear an attaboy every once in a while, like you basically got to learn to give those to yourself. So be proud of yourself every once in a while. That's kind of my last 2 cents on that. So that's my long intro. But I absolutely adore this topic of who inspires us. I think it's so important. So with that, I'll turn it over to Miss Val.
Oh my. And she throws it to me. Oh my goodness, I love that. So I'm just here to hear Carly's list. So we talk a lot before our presentations, and a lot of times we just wing it because we like to be in the moment and be inspired. And when she told me that she had this whole list, I was just like, okay, I'm gonna be there. I want to hear your list, but I don't have a fucking list. So let me see what I can come up with. I think it is very important to be inspired because it keeps us going when we've lost our own steam. It's something that we can turn to that reminds us why we're doing it. It's one of the whys we do it. Even though we are talking about a who inspires us, I believe it's still one of the, okay, let me think again. Why am I doing this? Oh yeah, because these people inspire me to keep going when I don't want to. So some of that's in there. Mr. Coffee inspires me. Yep, he gets me going in the morning. There's some inspiration. Okay, seriously though, my inspiration comes from a lot of unique places. A lot of times I find my inspiration from when I'm thinking to myself about my own situation, where I'm at in my business. And I think to myself, well, how am I going to get to where I want? I find inspiration by looking for people who were in the same position that I'm in and who've exceeded or who've got to the place where I want to be. So with that, or people who are even lower inspiration. The first person that comes to mind, only because I mentioned him in another meeting that we had for Everyday Hustle, is Justin Bieber, because that he has no talent. Okay, he started out with no talent, and I used to look at him all the time and tell myself that I've got more talent in my pinky finger than he does. And yet he's famous and has an amazing following. So he inspired me for a long time. Now, I will say that he worked with his mentors. Some of his mentors are some of my favorite music artists. And he is now a really good music artist. I almost gagged to say that because there was a time when I couldn't stand Justin Bieber. But Justin Bieber inspires me because I can see how you can start with nothing, with no talent, and build upon that talent and work with your mentors and get to a place to where you can present yourself in the world and be famous on your own route, famous, because you've really worked hard at developing your skill. So he inspires me. Let's see, who else inspires me? There's this person, I don't remember his name. I also own a t-shirt business, and I do know the name of his company, or the name that he is on YouTube under, is Ninja Hustle. He inspires me because he's very young. And he started out doing the t-shirts as a side gig, but now he does like pretty much everything. He's got his own website. I think he offers classes. He definitely has a YouTube channel where he's always giving back and inspiring other t-shirt artists. But he had this one video that said something about how I made $17,000 in, I think it was in 1 month. And that caught my attention. I believe it was 17,000 in gross sales in 1 month off of t-shirts. And I've always thought, if anybody can do that, then I can do that. So that's like a goal where I said, one of these days I'm going to make that kind of money in 1 month off of t-shirts. But he inspires me because he started just like anybody else. He started with a small heat press and a vinyl cutter, and he was making t-shirts himself. And then you watch his videos and you learn how he improved his skills and he improved his equipment, and he figured out how to market. He figured out all by himself how to market himself. And to the point to where he posts videos about moving into a house and supporting his kids. And he does this full time now. And he's not a stay-at-home dad, but he works from home. And he bought his dream car. I loved watching that episode because it was like a sports car. It was like a really nice car. So he inspires me. My dad inspires me because no matter what was going on in his life, he was always an artist. He never gave up his art. He never forsake his art. And he was an amazing artist, never sold his work. As far as I can remember, he never sold his work. He was an art teacher within the school, so he had his work on display a lot, but never sold his work, which means he did it for the pure love and joy of art. And I love that. Me being an artist myself, he definitely inspires me. And then I think I'm going to end with four main inspirations are my daughters. I'm going to call them out by name: Monique, Letitia, Melissa, and Sarah, because they set their goals on what they want to do in life, and then they do the damn thing. Like there's no whining and complaining about, oh my God, look where my life has put me. They're just like, if that's what I'm going to do, I'm going to figure out how to do it. And I love that about them. So my daughters definitely inspire me. I said 4, then I said 7 because I have 3 grandkids. They inspire me because the kids coming around nowadays, they're just a new breed. And they inspire me because they do not let society, I would say my generation was ruled a little bit more by society. There was all this talk about peer pressure and blah, blah, blah. The kids nowadays, they don't give a fuck. My grandkids do what they want to do. And sometimes that comes off as headstrong. Sometimes that comes off as defiant, as disobedient. But I know that in their core, they're being true to themselves. And that trueness, that authenticity, that you're not going to tell me what to do, but in a good way. When you frame it in a good way, like, I'm doing this thing right now, why are you interrupting me? They're not children to be pushed around just because society says. And I tried to raise my children that way as well. And so they're, how do I want to say it? They are intent on being themselves. And I love that about them. I love watching their tiny little selves find their way in this world. And that is such an inspiration to me. So I think that's it for my list that I kind of came up with on the spur of the moment. But yeah, let's talk more about how being inspired is so relevant as we build our businesses. Carly, did you want to add to that any, or?
Totally. P.S. I loved your list That was so sweet. All of those things and all of the reasons that you find them inspirational. It is so, yeah, I wish a challenge like this would go viral on social media and like everybody list like who inspires you, you know? Because again, I think you see through the eyes of the person as they sit there and talk about who are their sources of inspiration. Because exactly like what you said, Val, like on the days where your gas tank is empty, it's like, where do you go to find gas to put in the gas tank? And so often you turn on, you know, a YouTube video from one of your favorite people, or you listen to the podcast of like the people who bring you comfort. And like, that's how you literally get gas back in the gas tank. So, I mean, having a long list of people who inspire you, it makes good sense from a self-care perspective because it's like those are your go-tos for when it's time to source your energy. Where does your energy come from? It's kind of the same question. um, so yeah, I love that. And honestly, I mean, I only did this for a few minutes before we got on here. And as we're sitting here, I'm like, oh, and them, oh, and them, oh, and Schitt's Creek. Don't even get me started on freaking like David Rose and whatever his name is behind the scenes, Daniel Levy. Yeah, like so many people when you really just keep going. There's also this comic who has a stutter, trying to think of his name. Drew Lynch is his name. And he was like the cool kid all growing up. And then he was like maybe 19 or 20 ish. And he was in a softball accident where like a ground ball jumped up. He was like going to get it with his glove and it jumped up and hit him in the throat. And it like damaged his vocal cords or whatever in his voice box. So now he has this stutter. And now that he has this like very, very noticeable speech impediment, people treat him differently than when he was like super jock, popular kid. And he's like, I was one of the guys in high school who was treating the stutter guy. I was being an asshole. And now I'm the stutter guy. And so his comedy it goes a little dark because he's been on a journey, but I mean, he's hilarious and he always brings it back to like, it's just being grateful for what you have. And like, he's very thankful, and his bravery to go out on stage and stutter in front of people. And I'm like, I have a hard time going out on stage in front of people and speaking my voice, my truth. And I have a way easier time than he does. So yeah, as you think deeper into that, there's so many different people who provide those little sources of keep on going. Like, life's okay. Everything's okay. Like, you can get to where you want to go. You can believe that it's possible. He did it. I can do it. You know, like you said, like it's seeing somebody else get there. It's like, I mean, I understand how the universe works. If they did it, that means I can do it. Period. It's possible. So I can have that. And yeah, all of those things.
When you said Schitt's Creek, and that made me think Daniel Levy. Okay, so I have to say Daniel and Eugene Levy, they both inspire me, but not for reasons that you would think. So as I put my makeup on sometimes and I'm doing my eyebrows, sometimes I'll be like, ooh, that's definitely a Daniel Levy eyebrow. Like it's really, really way big. And I think to myself, it's okay, because if Daniel and Eugene can be famous with those big ass bushy eyebrows, I can be okay if I put my eyebrows on the wrong way today. So I think about the people that inspire me a lot of times are people who are just authentically themselves, the people who are willing to step out and be themselves and let it be known that this is who I am and it's okay to be, you know, authentically bushy eyebrowed or whatever their thing is. Like Carly was talking about, the person with the speech impediment. I think that inspires me a lot. People, because it lets me know that I don't have to be perfect in order to get to where I want to be in life. That I can say 15 million times. Oh, you know what? Grant Cardone, here, I'm all over the place. Grant Cardone, his first book, he wrote a book, and I think he probably had it published. Listening to him talk about it, I believe he had it self-published. I could be wrong, but I think it was in the same kind of manner of, I'm just going to put this manuscript together, send it off, and they'll print it as needed. But the thing about his first book, which became a bestseller and sold millions of copies and still sells copies, is he was talking about writing that book. He's like, that thing is full of fucking typos. I don't even know what I was saying in this chapter and that chapter. And he's famous and became a bestseller and didn't give a shit about the typos because he had something to say and he said it in whatever way it was able for him to say it at the time and put it out there. Now, I'm sure at the level he's at right now, when he puts manuscripts and books out there, he's got people on staff to make sure that there's no typos and to rework. But when he was first starting, he knows it's full of typos. And he never, as far as I know, never went back and recreated that first book that's out there, still a bestseller, chock full of typos. So that inspires me to see people being human and authentic who are still successful. And it makes me it allows me to let myself off the hook and to be authentic and to be human and to make mistakes and to realize that that is not going to deter in any way from my achievements or my success or my goals in life. And I think it's really important to find relatable people that inspire us. I mean, of course, we have the mentors and the Oprahs and the Ellen inspires me. But when we really dig into their stories and we figure out, oh, that's where they started, you know what, I'm in a very similar position. When we make that person relatable, then we can see that it's okay to be who we are because they were who they were and they still achieve that same level of success. And so that's, I think some of my biggest inspirations comes from, I hate to say picking apart and looking at their faults because that's not really what I'm doing. I'm relating to the fact that they're authentic and that they're real and that that's the kind of person I want to be. I don't want to make myself over to be this fake persona. I want to be able to be myself and to know that myself is enough. So that really inspires me.
Yeah, that's yummy. All of those things. Um, I think a lot of it comes down to like when I look at everybody on this list, which is funny. I'm not going to mention them by name, but I do have one on my list, kind of like what your Justin Bieber story was, where I'm like, I don't know how they do it. I think it's fabulous. I think it's fantastic. They are wildly successful. I have no idea how they did it. That means that other people don't have to understand how I do what I do. I just have to understand how I do what I do. I have to own it and I have to be myself, kind of like your story about the book filled with typos. Like, if you try to get it perfect and try to get it perfect and try to get it perfect, like A, it'll never be perfect. And B, you'll never actually do the damn thing. And so I love that he published it like full of typos. Like, that's so brilliant. Like, oh, you can always like make corrections later. But if you don't ever start, oh my goodness. Like, yeah. So I love people who start small, like entrepreneurs who literally built their businesses from the ground up, like started in their garage. Like that makes me think of people like Steve Jobs and Bill Gates and like had a freaking vision of a home or a computer in every home. I think that was Steve Jobs. But like just the way that they created something that didn't exist before, they looked at every single limitation in front of them and said, that doesn't bother me. I'm not limited by that limitation that other people see there. I know how to go around that. And then they persevered because, oh my God, like how many times did they iterate over and over and over again? Like their shit kept catching on fire and like it's not working and we're gonna have to start over and like, okay, that one didn't work. So how are we gonna fix it next time? And like they just kept doing it. And now look, I mean, Valorie and I are sitting 90 miles apart on a computer on a very lightweight personal laptop, like because these guys were out there in their freaking garage. And I'm like, that exactly like what you said, like making it relatable to like, I'm not in my garage, but like I'm in my little space here. It's only me. I'm like in here every day, like plugging away, like figuring out how to build my empire, like piece by piece. And, like it's okay that this is where I'm at right now because it's possible to go from like a one-man operation in a garage to like changing the world. So like when I see people like that, that really inspires me. And I love looking at different people who, use that wealth, like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, to do something in the world. Like, you know, you can still be like filthy rich and give away a shit ton of money when you got enough of it flowing. So like that's inspirational. I'd like to have that level of abundance flowing to me so that, you know, not only am I sitting pretty, but like I can, you know, everything else that I care about can sit pretty. And like it's all just energy. And they figured out how to get a lot of energy to flow. And so I think even in that story, like Bill Gates is a perfect example of like he is very almost like single-minded in his vision. Like what he sees is possible. He does not listen to anybody else who tells him it won't work because of this, it won't work because of this, you can't do it because of this. He takes all of that, lets it all fall away, and he sticks with his vision. And it seems to be working well for him. So like it gives me hope that like I feel like that's where I am, you know? I'm like, this is my little garage and I'm fiddling away, trying to get it to work and tweaking it and, you know, making this thing and like that didn't work. Okay, we're gonna try this thing and like just like doing the innovation part. And I find it to be really fun, but every once in a while, you know, it's tempting to try to take score of like how far have you come so far. And stories like that, it's like there's a lot that goes into it. Doesn't have to be, but there's a lot of fun in the unfolding, like when it's just you in your garage, you know? So like don't miss out on the fun of that part of it, like trying to leap ahead to the future that you think you want. Like enjoy the right now. So I feel like that those couple stories like really help me remember that.
It's interesting when you first started talking, you were like, and it inspires me to know that not everybody has to understand what I'm doing. I just have to know what I'm doing. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't even fucking know what I'm doing half the time. So I don't know how that relates, but the people who inspire me. And then another person came up. I always fuck up her last name. So I do apologize, Kat, because I know we're friends on Facebook. Kat Laturzo, the Katrina Roots Show is her website. She inspires me. And this is across the board for what made me think of this when I was like, I don't even fucking know what I'm doing, is because they set their vision to this is what I'm going to do, this is what I'm going to achieve. And between where their vision is and where they are right now, they consistently and repeatedly give no fuck about how they're going to get there. They remove the how. They don't worry about the how. They just know that they're going to get there. And I believe some of my biggest role models, the biggest people that inspire me, are people who consistently do not worry about the how. They just know, I'm going to run a business that's going to make $1 million. I'm going to run a business from my laptop. I'm going to service this many people. And when you ask them how, a lot of people don't know how. And that's okay, because let me get spiritual here for a minute. Those people rely on letting God, the universe, their inner being, whoever, figure out the how. And they keep that vision single-mindedly in their mind of what they're going to do. And they let the universe figure out the how. And that is so, so, so important for me on my business journey, to consistently remind myself that it's not my job to figure out how I'm going to do what I want to do. It's my job to set my goal, to keep my attention focused on that goal, and to do everything I can in my power to move towards that goal. That inspires me when I see other people doing that, to continually, and it is a continual thing with me, because I do like to sit down and sketch out, I'm going to do this many Facebook posts, and I'm going to do this many events, and I'm going to be marketing and this and that. I like to try to figure out the how when it's fun, but a lot of times all of that it comes out of left field, like how I actually get there. Like what was the last thing that just amazed me? I think it might be with the group, like when we first started doing events, and our membership skyrocketed. I didn't have anything to do with that. The universe had everything to do with that. but had I sat down and planned out all of the things, I don't think that would have been as effective as me just having fun and letting the universe line things up for me. So I love seeing stories of people who do that same thing. They set their goals, they have fun with the journey, and they let the universe figure out all of the details. And that inspires me a lot, because that's what I strive to do and what I try to remind myself to do.
The double unmute equals mute. So yeah. Um, I'm feeling really good about this. Are you feeling complete here? I feel pretty good. I think we'll wrap up by saying, Buildabiz is something that we do every week. Granted, we are taking a 2-week hiatus here to make some transitions in our personal lives, both Val and I. So we will be back April 15th. So whether you're on our Facebook page or our meetup page, we'll put both links in the comments. So that you can find us and reach out. Plus, Val and I both run practices. My practice is called Owning Authenticity, and you can find me at owningauthenticity.com. And from there, I do a lot of natal chart readings, but also basic energy work and getting you unblocked as far as living as your authentic self. Like, what is that? What does that look like? And how do you show up as that on a daily basis? That's what I try to, focus on in my own personal work, and is my goal in working with other people. So owningauthenticity.com if you would like to reach out and work with me.
And now I'll do my little promo. So I'm Valorie Lewis, for those of y'all that don't know. My email address is valorie@goddesswithanAttitude.com. My website is goddesswithanAttitude.com. Like Carly said, we do a lot of events. A lot of my my personal business, goddesswithanAttitude.com, and my spiritual works are all hosted on, the events are all hosted on Soul Aligned Living on Meetup. And then we also organize this group, which is Everyday Hustle, which lends itself more towards talking about business pursuits. And I do want to mention, I think Carly mentioned this at the beginning, but generally, this is a group session. This morning we logged in, and some of the people who had RSVP were unable to attend. So we said, no problem, we'll just broadcast live to Facebook and then it'll be recorded. So generally, this is not our general format. We welcome you to come with us and join in and have a live discussion with us. We are so glad that we were able to come on here and just chit chat among us and do this live for you all in case you missed it. But generally it is a live discussion. So we welcome you to join us on Meetup, on Everyday Hustle, and also on Soul Aligned Living. And I think that is all I have to say. I'm going to finish drinking my coffee. Anything else, Carly? Are we good?
No, that's pretty much where I'm headed, is back to the coffee pot. So
Yay!
until next time, we did the live video on Facebook. That's so exciting.
Thing. Oh, we figured out, this is our first time figuring out how to stream to Facebook too. So we're pretty, pat yourself on the back, Carly. We're pretty
feeling very accomplished. Beautiful. Until next time, guys.
Bye.
Bye.